So, lads, today just got to talk about the NCAA tournament of Paige Bueckers. And I just got to talk about just overall what we've seen realistically since the Tennessee loss. When we saw basically after every loss, Gino Auriemma throwing Paige Bueckers under the bus. And look, I think UConn, once they go into Big East play, like they're not going to face anyone good. They're not really going to face anyone good in the Big East because the Big East sucks. Like, this is not the 90s. This is not the early 2000s. This is not like Candace Parker versus freaking Tina Charles. This is not Candace Parker versus Tina Charles. And I just got to be completely honest. Like, Paige Bueckers is doing what we expected. Paige Bueckers is doing every single thing we have expected of a player to be doing, and a player of her caliber. Paige Bueckers is somebody that has, honestly, like, you've heard her say it, where she goes into like this zone and she starts playing. She's somebody who overthinks things. She is somebody that, like, when she plays free, she is an absolutely exceptional basketball player. Like, when Paige Bueckers is not thinking, she becomes Paige Buckets again. When Paige Bueckers overthinks and forces on consistency, she's just not the same player. We can be honest, she's just not the same player. She's good, but she's the super role player. She's the super role player that she became, and I don't know whether it was Gino Auriemma. I don't know whether it was UConn. I don't know whether it was an obsession with stats. I don't know what it was. But Paige Bueckers is somebody that when she's playing free, she's exceptional. And when she's overthinking things, she's poor. And, like, that's just the way it becomes in basketball. Like, we've all played anyone who's played low-level basketball has all played games. Either they've done it or they've played against it, where a team is either freaking hung over and they play freely and suddenly everything just goes right. They play off instincts. They're playing really well. And sometimes that happens. And obviously I'm not making that same comparison. But when a player has the talent to be one of the best players in the world, a lot of the time to get to that point, their instincts have to be good. Their ability to play freely has to be good. And if that type of player who plays off instinct, who plays with flair, becomes too focused on efficiency and becomes too focused on doing the right thing instead of doing maybe what will get them a bucket, because the right thing is not always the right thing. The right thing for a player who's the best player on the court at all times is very different than the right thing for a role player. Like, the player who is the star is allowed to take bad shots. They're allowed to play freely, and that's going to be what's best for the team. And it's mad. It's one of those things where we've seen it so much. We've seen it so much, and, like, college ball is not the same level as pros. And we can be completely honest here. Like, college basketball, no matter what country you're in, college basketball is never going to be the same level as the pros. Whether you're playing in the NBA versus college, whether you're playing in the WNBA versus college, heck, whether you're playing in Irish Superleague or you're playing for the DCU varsity team, it's not the same level. And the fact that we're now seeing a player who I think could be a WNBA All-Star finally playing like a WNBA All-Star against college players by looking like clearly the best player in the tournament is massive. It's absolutely massive. And it's just, I'm so happy to have seen it, because all of this BS, and by the way, I'm just going to make this a point. Everyone should want the real rivalry, Caitlin versus Paige, because they're like for like. They do different things in the position. And yes, Paige's efficiency is always going to be better. But this is what I always say. Making an aggressive mistake is better than being passive. Making aggressive mistakes is better than being passive if you are the star. If you're just another player, it makes no difference. If you're just another player, then if you are a moment of spectacular player versus crazy stuff, you become a sixth player. If you want to be a glue player that's never going to ascend and is just going to be another player that blends in, then you hyper focus on efficiency, which is what Paige Bueckers did. And it's so good to see Paige Bueckers for the sport of basketball. The best thing for the sport, I've always said this, the best thing for women's basketball is that Paige is hooping. The best thing for women's basketball is that Caitlin's hooping. The best thing is that Angel's starting to pick things up. Because I said this where I'm like, the Caitlin Angel stuff is going to end very soon. Because the real rivalry is going to be Caitlin and Paige. Because they are the same position. And I think there's always going to be that argument. There's always going to be that argument of, do you want the plug and play piece? Do you want the player that will plug in to any system and play a role and raise the floor of every single team and raise the ceiling of every team? Or do you want the heliocentric, they are the offense, everything runs through them, but they do it at an exceptional level? It's like comparing Luka to Tatum. And I understand, obviously, Paige Bueckers sometimes plays point guard position, but when she's off the ball, it's almost like comparing a Luka to a Tatum, where there are definite comparisons there. I think a lot of people would say Luka's better, but people can make the argument that Tatum is better, and that's going to be the best thing for women's basketball. It is. It is going to be the best thing for women's basketball. We need this version of Paige, though. We need a version of Paige, because, by the way, aggressive Paige is still efficient. It's not like she becomes inefficient, but she doesn't become this super hyper-efficient player who shoots 57% from the field and 40-something% from three. She might shoot 48% from the field and 38% from three, which is hyper-efficient on volume. And not only that, she's an incredible decision maker. And that's going to be the best thing, because I was so scared. And when I had Olivia Miles mocked at number 1, when I had Dominique Malonga mocked at number 1, I still think Malonga is an interesting one because I legitimately think she's got go potential. I think Malonga is a very, very interesting one. But when it comes to Dominique Malonga versus like Paige, there is a debate there, but that's a completely different thing. But right now, this version of Paige Bueckers is, and that's the thing, is like people criticize Paige Bueckers, and rightfully so, during this season. The fact she was not the player of the year. She was the player of the year 4 years ago. And I'm sorry, Juju was better in her freshman year than she was this year. There is no excuses for Paige Bueckers not to have won National Player of the Year. She played in the cakewalk Big East. Her percentages were ridiculous. She was so focused on efficiency that, in fact, she did not show up in fourth quarters in losses against Tennessee. She was okay in the fourth against Notre Dame. And she did not in any way show up against USC. And that's the thing where it's like, I'll give an example. In the USC game, she single-handedly, from about halfway through the third quarter till about 7 minutes to go, single-handedly brought them back into the game by herself. And she goes and shoots a pull-up three while they're down 2. And she misses it. It's a bad shot. On the break. Shoots a pull-up three when no rebound is there. It's a bad shot. And then what did she do for the rest of the game? Not even look at the basket. Not even look at the basket. Something clicked in that Oklahoma game in the first half. She went into this zone, and I really like it. I'll always mention this play against USC. And this is the play where I'm like, this is the Paige Bueckers that is going to be one of the top players in WNBA from the second she walks in the WNBA. And everyone's talking about, she scored this amount of points. No, this was the play. She shot a pull-up three, missed. The ball got kicked to her on a deep three, but she got a comfortable catch in rhythm, missed. And after missing that deep three, she hustled and to try to get the rebound and forced an out-of-bounds play off her player. If this was 6 weeks ago, Paige Bueckers, after missing that first ill-advised pull-up three, contested three, a bad shot, what she would have done was not shot the ball for 3 minutes. But not only did she shoot the ball, she shot another bad shot in the same possession, missed it, and then did not care enough to miss that shot, was aggressive enough, and went and freaking got her team the ball back. When you are the best player on your team, or the second best player on the team, you have to be willing to take bad shots, especially when it comes to one-off games. And I've always said this, Paige Bueckers was willing to do that as a freshman. And as time went on, she became less and less willing to take the bad shot because she was scared of missing the bad shot. But you cannot make the big shot if you don't take the big shot. And you have to be willing to miss the shot to make the shot. And that is what we are seeing now from Paige. This version of Paige Bueckers is going to be an all-star as a rookie. This version of Paige Bueckers is going to be in conversation with Caitlin Clark. Is she as good? In my opinion, no. But again, it might become a Luka and Tatum type debate where there's an actual argument. I don't think Tatum is anywhere near as good as Luka, but there might be an actual argument for it. And we can stop all the bullshit. We can stop all the Ethan Thomas bullshit for all these other reasons. Caitlin plays with a flair that Paige Bueckers doesn't play with. However, if you watch freshman Paige, high school Paige, and I know that's a different world, but we're now starting to see that again. If you can get a Paige Bueckers playing with freedom in the WNBA, this is a player that the league is going to have to grow off that's not named Caitlin Clark. And these are the type of players that are going to grow the league. They're super, super talented players in college, and I'm being completely honest here. College sports, WNBA is in such a good place. And as much as people are going to be tribalistic in their fan bases, like a lot of, the CCFC are cheering against freaking Paige. Some are cheering against South Carolina. South Carolina beats Caitlin. It's a good thing in sports. It's a good thing cheering against your rivals. I'm sorry. When people are tribalistic, when people are really care about the teams or players they support, that is actually a good thing for the sport. With the UConn psychos, for a lack of a better word, the South Carolina psychos, the Caitlin psychos, they're good for the sport. As long as they don't cross a line where it gets personal, when it's purely about sports, hate watching is good for a sport. Heck, people have hate watched LeBron for 20 years. What Paige Bueckers is doing now is absolutely incredible. So anyway, that's the video. I'll see you guys.